Collect 5 more fragments and you can have an entire silicon.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I am your host, Adam. Joining me as always are Petty and Galix. Right, let us get to the minor events that constitute what we call the news. Petty, why don't you start us out this week?
Do you like it? Hello?
Yeah,
It sounded like somebody else was talking.
stupid Gemini.
Oh. Um. So yeah, there was honestly not a whole lot to report this week. I've been having some issues with my back. Best case, I pulled a muscle. Worst case, I have a kidney stone. So
Oh boy.
that's fun.
You should try not to have those.
Yeah, unfortunately, whatever is up with my body, I am prone to kidney stones, and we don't know why. I'm just one of those people who are just prone to having kidney stones. So, um, hopefully it's just a pulled muscle and it will go away in time. Because I really don't want to have to deal with another kidney stone. I do have an appointment to see my doctor, I believe next week anyway. So ideally, my back stops hurting by then, and it was just a pulled muscle. But if it's still hurting next week, then I'll let the doctor know. Um, as far as like gaming stuff goes, not really a whole lot to report, like on actual like playing of the video games. Like, I haven't really been playing a lot just because for most of the week it's been too cold, and with my back being sore, it's been hard to sit in my chair because my chair. I probably need to look into getting a new chair, but I definitely do not have the money for that. So I've been mostly just kind of hanging out in the front room with the cats on the couch, watching YouTube videos on the big TV. Noisy loves just anything on the TV. She is very fascinated by the television. And honestly, I'd rather be fascinated by that than getting into stuff. And similar with Soul, he will also sit and watch TV as long as it's not like too loud. So, I did end up ordering the Digimon card game Final Crest limited set. So that will be coming in August, I believe. So that's going to be fun. And I think we have a new set. Is it this week or the week after?
In regards to what?
Another
Oh, I don't
Digimon
know.
set.
I'm not really ready for it either way.
Yeah. Sometime in the very near future, there's another Digimon set releasing this month. So,
Ah.
gonna need to see about possibly getting an order in on that, assuming I can. And yeah, other than that, it's been just cold and quiet. I mean, today is actually somewhat quote unquote warm. My computer is telling me it is 34 degrees outside right now. This time last week it was sub-zero, for anyone wondering. So it's been warm enough we can turn off some of the space heaters. And I'm glad we're starting to do that. I noticed one of the outlets that one of the space heaters was plugged in at was, let's say, getting a little toasty. So that's gonna need to be replaced.
I checked. EX11 releases on February 14th.
So that is
Next, not this coming weekend, but the one after that. But if there's a event for it, then that might be this week. I don't know.
EX
I
sets
think a lot of the
usually,
time they don't do that for
yeah,
EX
yeah,
stats.
that is one of the things I do like about EX sets, because God, I cannot handle trying to do 2 pre-releases in the span of a month. But yeah, I can always look into ordering that, even if I need to, have the guy who usually sells my stuff put one on hold for a couple weeks for me till I can get the money. But yeah, other than that, I think everything's been relatively quiet this week. So next victim.
My
Ogre.
parents surprised me this week with we're going away for a couple of days this week. That was not super thrilling.
Mm,
I have a appointment with the chest medicine people tomorrow, and I'm taking the day off for that. And I was debating asking one of them to come with me in case there's anything that I, forget to ask or stuff, because I'm kind of scatterbrained about things
mm-hmm.
and it's important. So, um, but that's not an option. So, oh well.
I mean, there is the old standby of Notes app on phone.
Yeah, I might do that. I have literally never done that before, so I don't actually know how, but
I used to use Google Keep, but I don't think that exists anymore. So
I've never
most
heard of it,
phones,
so
most phones do have just like a regular like notepad app.
probably, yeah.
I know the one thing I like about
Anyway,
my Samsung phone is I can just pop out the stylus and literally write on the screen. It'll be like, "Oh, you want to use the notepad? All right, here you go."
oh well, I'll bring physical paper.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so that's a thing. Otherwise, I don't think anything too interesting going on in my
Mm,
personal life. Video game wise, uh the DLC for the second DLC set for Super Robot Wars Y dropped, so I have resumed regularly playing that, uh, and we'll probably be playing some during the show, to be honest. Um, and I have also made some more progress in Pokemon Legends ZA. That's probably all I've really got.
All right then. So that means it's my go then. Right. So, well, honestly, most of my news is video game related this week. Um, Lead thing is I have a new Xbox controller. I'm actually a bit concerned because my old Xbox controller was developing some sort of weird drift issue. Not like
Uh,
a traditional
I was just
drift.
about to ask, is it an Xbox One controller? Because those ones had a big drift problem.
Is an Xbox Series X or an Xbox Series controller.
Ooh, that should have been
Yeah.
resolved with the S and X controllers.
Well, it was a really weird drift problem because it was like kind of a dual drift problem.
Mm,
Because on the up and down axes, let's call it,
mm-hmm,
on both the analog stick, the left one, and the D-pad. It was developing a kind of auto run issue, or it would take a bit of time to get back into position or just start moving. But like I said, the weird thing is it wasn't just the analog stick, because I was getting that in Tomb Raider. And the thing is, I was using the D-pad in Tomb Raider because that's what you use in classic Tomb Raider. And it's like suddenly Laura would just start moving.
You didn't get it spill any water on it or anything, did you?
I don't think so. It might have been dropped. Like it might have done something.
Something like that sounds to me like possible some sort of physical damage, be it water or drop. That's the only thing I can think of that can cause that problem.
But the thing is, I didn't know exactly what was causing it, and it's like, and once again, the doubly weird thing is this: like, the actual stick didn't have a damage issue.
Yeah.
Like when I actually moved, it was fine.
Well, it
like,
might be like a cracked solder joint or something like that, where it wouldn't be an issue with the stick. It's an issue on the circuit board, which would mean you'd need to replace it anyway. So,
yeah. Point is, circumstances were right for me to pick up a new Xbox controller. I have done so. And in fact, it just came like a hour or two ago. But I managed to test it well enough to know that it works and the problem is not present. So, the other thing I was concerned about, like, this wasn't necessarily a controller problem, but like a driver issue,
right,
or something like that. So thankfully, it's not that. Well, so problem solved until I guess something happens to this one. But I'll deal with that when I have to deal with that. Like, in other news, I have picked up many a Square Enix title because Steam had a winter sale for them specifically.
Oh yeah, specifically in the season of winter, not the winter sale.
Yes, the Square Enix winter Steam sale, they called it, which is pretty direct to the point. And the thing of it is, I managed to finally get some, Square Enix stuff at reasonable prices. The likes of Lost Sphere, Onaniki, Legend of Mana, Life is Strange 2, ActRaiser Renaissance, and World of Final Fantasy.
Nifty.
You may have forgotten some of these games existed.
And
Legend of Mana.
Only reason I remember World of Final Fantasy exists is because I got it when I got my Xbox One. I think I technically have Maxima.
Yeah, I got the Maxima upgrade.
Yeah.
Which was all told $15,
which
is a really good price on that. It's like, because like the base game for World of Final Fantasy goes for $25, but Maxima, like, that's $16 right there. So that's quite expensive. That was quite the discount. Anyway, let's see what else. In terms of what I've been playing, I actually had to hold off for a few days because, once again, my controller wasn't working properly, and it was affecting things. But I have been playing a bit of Darksiders 3. I'm like, not exactly sure what to make of this game yet because I'm only like an hour in or so.
I remember not liking Darksiders 3 as much as I liked Darksiders 2.
It's a far uglier game, I'll say that much.
Yeah.
Like, how do I put this? Darksiders 3 looks like a basic ass Unity game at points, even though I don't think this is a Unity game. Like, I want to say it's Unreal. Like, it's just, it's it's the kind of game where people say they want games that look worse and take less time to develop. And then I'd point to something like Darksiders 3 and say, no, you wouldn't want this.
Well, my issue with Darksiders 3 wasn't the looks. I thought it looked fine. It was the gameplay changes I didn't like.
I could see that. Though apparently that might have been down to the settings, because there is a setting in Darksiders 3 where you can have it play like Darksiders 1 and 2. So, and let's see. And there's been the games for reviews, and a game called Dragon View, which is a curious game that I would explain later, because we don't have the bandwidth to go into the history of this thing. Just suffice to say, it's a weird semi-sequel to a game called Draken, which is something else I feel like I'd have to explain. So, with that in mind, merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Jevon Wright of Stormcloak Games.
Hello. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. Right, so how we like to get started is we like to get to know the person behind the games, the studio, and all of that assorted business. And we begin this journey by asking this particular question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Oh, cool question. I've been playing video games since I got access to a computer. So my dad would take me to his office when I was younger, when I was like 10, 11, and he had a computer, and the computer had games on it, and I would play the games. And we had a 386, so I would play games on that as much as I could. I would just get as many games as I could. I would play them all the time, and it's been my life ever since, really. But it's only in the last, in 2021, I decided to go from web development and software engineering into game development. Because I was burning out in my previous work a little bit, and I was also looking for something new to do. And I had this idea for a game, and I was experimenting with it, and I was like, this game is actually, it's coming along quite nicely. I think this could be an actual thing. And that game turned out to be Adaptory. And so that was, 4 and a bit years ago.
So I'm wondering, did the pandemic have anything to do with that?
Oh, definitely. So, like, going through the pandemic, like you just sort of, I think everyone went through a bit of like reevaluation of like, what are our life priority choices? And mine was like, am I really going to be spending the rest of my professional career working for other businesses, for example, or working in this space? And it was like, what do I really enjoy? And I think Diablo 2 Resurrected had just come out, and I was like, oh my goodness, I remember how good games used to be. So I also wanted to help make games that respected the player and games that I enjoyed playing. I was sick of microtransactions and all the other battle passes and all the other stuff that was going on. It's like, what if I tried to make a game? And that turned out, there was a lot of walks was involved in starting Adaptory. a lot of conversations with my partner.
I'd imagine, because it says in your Steam notes here that you went through quite a lot of iterating and alphas before arriving at the...
Yes, well, I knew that a game like this, you just can't, like, it's a base building game, so it's very complex. There's a lot of systems, there's a lot of user interface. And I knew that it wouldn't be a good idea just to be like, surprise, here's version 1.0, because you're going to be missing out on so much stuff. And I'm still a software engineer at heart, and I'm used to doing open source. I'm used to having people playing it and testing it, and like testing the software and providing feedback, because that's where you get that's where the game grows. So I always knew that I wanted to do it as open as I could. Like I'd love to make the game open source one day, but that is a totally different thing to worry about. Uh, but I knew that I wanted to go through a whole bunch of alphas. And so I got my first release, I think it was 2022, which I posted on my Patreon because I had some family and friends who were supporting me. And then it went out on itch.io, and I got a lot of really good feedback from itch. And eventually it went up to Steam with alpha. I can't remember the alpha number, but we've done 13 alphas since then, and Adaptory's just come out on Steam Early Access last week.
Well, congratulations on
Thank
even
you.
reaching this point.
That's pretty cool.
I'm like, can be, I suppose. Just that's not the word I usually hear when it comes to launching a game.
Yeah, it's definitely been many emotions, many roller coasters, but I have a lovely group of friends that are helping me out, contractors. We have a really nice community on Discord. Everyone's been very excited. I was working with, I met a lot of streamers over the last few years, and a lot of them were streaming Adaptory during launch, and that was just really nice. So it's been lovely. Like there's been crashes and there's been negative feedback and all the other stuff, but I'm loving this. Like this is my dream job, so I'm hoping to keep on doing it.
Indeed. And I suppose it's worth going into that name, Adaptory.
Mhm. Yes.
What does that mean exactly? What is Adaptory?
Yeah, I spent a long time trying to come up with a name for this game. Um, I have a whole list of things on my mirror of like what it could be, and in the end, I went with Adaptory because I liked how it was a mix of three things that was the game. So it's a mix of adapting because there's random events, so you have to adapt to the world and what the world throws at you. It's got factory in it. Like I love factory games, base building games, Factorio. So automation is in the game, and it's also story because there's a very strong story, character-driven element of it. The mixture of those three words, adapting and factory and story, came up with Adaptory. And I also like that it was started with an A. That means that you get to the top of a lot of the lists automatically. So win-win. And also the domain name was available and it wasn't used as a trademark and all that other stuff.
That's handy.
Yeah,
It
you have to look
really
into
is.
those sort of things.
And yeah, so that's a good segue into talking about the game itself. As you've mentioned, it's a base building factory game with a narrative to it.
Yes.
So, like, how do I put this? Who are you? What are you doing in this title?
Yeah, so in Adaptory, player is looking after a crew of 4 explorers. They have crash landed on a planet. Uh, you can see it in the trailer there. They've crash landed after leaving their home planet, and you have to help them survive. So you put instructions into the world, like digging and collecting resources, building machines, and the explorers go and do it for you. So you're sort of like looking at it from the side on, issuing instructions and seeing how your explorers work and interact. And in the process of playing the game, the explorers will have conversations with each other, where you'll learn more about the history of how they got to be here, what happened to the ship that crashed on this planet, where you're going next. Does everyone want to go to the next stage of do they want to get off the planet? Like there's a lot to explore through the conversations and the diary entries as well.
Okay.
At its base,
And
at its core, the game is very much about simulations as well. So you have to make sure that you keep your explorers alive, healthy and fed, and not too hot, not too cold, with lots of oxygen, and beauty. There's going to be beauty and cooking and things like that, clothing in future updates.
that sounds like a lot of systems.
Yes, I love system building games. Like I thrive on systems, just simple systems that interact together in really weird and emergent ways. That's what I love.
Yeah. Yeah, this game reminds me a lot of Terraria.
Yes, which just had an update.
Yeah, it did. Like the bigger and bolder update, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I
Which is
played it for a little bit and I was like, oh, I have to start from scratch again. Oh,
Mhm.
I'll go back to Kerbal. I've been playing a bit of Kerbal Space Program.
Hmm. And now, like in terms of your player character,
Mhm.
is it randomly generated? Can you do a lot of tweaking? Like, is it
Mhm.
pre-made?
So in Adaptory, you start off with 4 characters. There's a panel, there's a screen at the start where you get to choose the people who are in your team. Every character, which we call explorers, has I think it's between 4 and 6 traits. The traits are like a mixture of positive and negative. Like they like digging, or they like being up late at night, or they don't want to be around annoying explorers, or they like chatting to each other, or they're good with like electrical machines and that sort of stuff. Um, and so each character is procedurally generated, and you get to play with those 4 characters, and they interact with each other in interesting ways. So internally, the characters have one of 9 different personality types, and those personality types dictate how they interact with each other. So you can have someone who's a challenger, who's very like aggressive at talking to everyone, and you've got people who are peacemakers who just want to calm everyone down. And it's those interactions of the personality types that influence how the base gets along. So again, more systems to play with.
Mhm. So it sounds like mood has an effect on gameplay.
Yes, at the moment it is only if they're sad, then they work slower, and if they're happy, they work faster. But there's a much bigger design space that I haven't explored yet around that.
Mm.
Makes sense. Like once again, it's something that has to be built.
Yes,
So
yes, this is it's a unique game, a unique genre, and it turns out there's a lot of complexity hidden away.
well, here's a question: how many people are working on this game currently?
I am the only full-time person and the only developer on Adaptory. But I have a team of, I think it's 6 contractors helping out with little bits and pieces. So I have an artist who's based in Chicago, who I met on Twitch actually, a composer, I have a sound designer, what am I missing? Animator who I've just started recently working with, um, and a friend of mine is helping out with content creation and marketing stuff. But I'm the only person working on it full time.
Mm.
Like, and is it tricky to coordinate with your, let's call it, your team, given that they're all across the world?
I mean, I think everyone got really good at doing this during the pandemic, and so it's actually been really straightforward. Like sometimes the delay can be 24 hours, but we all hang out on Discord. We're all very communicative, which is really good. Um,
Mm.
yeah, no, I mean, I've led teams before, so I guess that has helped as well. Like over communicating is really important. Like
Have
just
you
making
led
sure everyone
remote
always knows what's
teams
going on.
before, or is it more like in an office than like a remote team is like a new thing for you to kind of work on in a skill set
I mean,
wise?
it wasn't an office. It
Yeah.
wasn't an office, and then everyone had to go home.
Yeah. Well, because
Yeah.
dealing with a remote team and a physical team are 2 very different beasts.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, when I was working at my previous role, we had engineers all over the world. They were in
Mm.
the States, they were in London, they were in Singapore, and so I don't know. It's just I didn't. I don't think it's been that difficult, and we seem to be doing okay.
Some people take to it better than others. Some people hate
Yes.
the not instant communication you can have sometimes with remote teams. And some people are
Yeah.
fine as long as they get it, in 24 hours or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about communication and being like clear, like what do you need? How do you work best? And
Hmm.
so I try and understand how everyone else on the team, how they prefer to work, and I try to adapt to that.
Right.
And is there an idle component to this game? Like you mentioned, Factorio, and a big part of Factorio is automation.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering how much of that plays into Adaptory here.
Yeah, so early on I realized, so one thing about Adaptory is that you're always limited in the number of explorers. You start off with 4 and you're limited to 8. So that means that the explorers, the things that the characters that do the things in the world, they become your most precious resource.
Hmm.
And if you want to have a very large base, you can't just rely on having like if you only have 4 to 8, then they're always going to be busy. So you're going to have to rely on automation. So I've added automation into the game, and there's more to explore there as well. But like if you can build a base that looks after itself, that's my long-term goal of the game, and that's why there's random events as well to challenge the design of the base. So everything, as far as I can make it, is automatable. There's still more stuff to add, but you can there's sensors. So like if the oxygen level is too high, then you turn on an oxygen generator. If the temperature is too high, then you open the door to vent out some gas. And you can make really complex systems. And I know that the game is Turing complete, and so I'm looking forward to seeing who builds a computer for the first time in Adaptory. I'm looking forward to that a lot.
And wait, did you have something?
Yeah, I was gonna. As far as the explorers goes, are they
Mhm.
set explorers or are they like random dice rolls every time they spawn?
So when you start the game, there's 4 characters, and you get to choose who they are, but they're all procedurally generated.
Mm.
So there's an infinite number, basically, of combinations. But once you've made that crew, then you start the game, and that's your crew to play through the game.
Mm. All right.
So another thing I'm wondering about is
Mhm.
the world, or rather worlds. Um,
Mhm.
is this like a self-contained thing, or is this something that could be theoretically linked to other worlds? As in,
Mhm.
would there be some sort of online multiplayer component?
Mm. So I decided early on, because I'm a solo dev, that multiplayer, uh, while technically possible, is not going to be my priority. Like I want to get a
Mm.
really good game going first. And something that I have learnt is that any game is fun multiplayer. But making a game that is fun single player and then making it multiplayer is out of this world, like a million times better.
Mm.
And so if I can make a really fun single player game and then eventually take it to multiplayer, it'll do really, really well.
Insert
But
joke
for
about
now, I'm
not
focusing on.
pulling No Man's Sky at launch.
Yeah, that as well. That as well. So I've tried to be really like careful with what I promise. But it is technically possible. Like the game engine, like I've done online games before. I've made online experiments and prototypes, so I understand a little bit about it. But for now, it is a single player game. There's a huge like lore universe that my story writer has come up with. So there's a lot to pull out, like to uncover through the playthroughs. But right now, it's just single player.
Yeah, I can understand the philosophy here. Not to mention that actually developing multiplayer netcode, that's the seventh level of the abyss
Yeah.
from
Ah,
those who have undertook such a thing.
yeah. I mean, it's not too bad. So I have done it in the past, although that was mostly for a role-playing game as opposed to like live, like a first-person shooter or anything like real time. But like what I'm more concerned about with multiplayer stuff is, well, now there's a whole bunch of like regulations about how you have to interact with communities. Like as soon as two people can connect, then you have to worry about swear words and horrible things that people say and moderation and all that sort of stuff. So that's an entire team. I'm not going to deal with that right now.
I suppose it's worth shifting focus to early access. And that is to say, what is the current state of the game in terms of content?
Yeah. Adaptory is fully playable. The demo, so there's been a demo, which is the alpha, that's been up for 2 years or so. And some players of the demo have played it for 300, 400 hours, which blows me away. No one's found all the secrets yet in early access. Very few people, for example, get to the bottom of the world. There is a bottom of the world. But it's fully playable. There's a bit of a story that you get to play through. So you have to send the distress transmission, and then the story progresses. Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a little bit in there. But so a lot of the gameplay at the moment is challenges that you'll set yourself, like making sure that the crew is kept alive. Like, can I find all the secrets? Can I get down to the bottom? Can I build the base that is fully automated? And the plan is to continually build it out in updates. So I've just started working on update 1 yesterday, and it's felt really good to get back behind the creating content stage.
So this is a story-based game as opposed to just something like a fun just build a base and then if you get tired of it, just start something else, kind of like say a Minecraft or whatever.
Yeah, like there is a story. So my intention is that you play through the first game with the story, and then you play through it again the next couple of times through the story as well, and explore all the different paths that you can take you to that ending. But then at that point, you're like, well, what can I do? How can I push it? How can I break the game? That sort of stuff. But that's a lot of gameplay to get that far. Like, I want this to be a game where you have saves of 20, 30, 40 hours long.
Right.
And what's your roadmap looking like?
So we've just pushed it on Steam. So the first update is going to be all about materials, so smelting and refinement, being able to use different materials for different buildings, because right now everything is just made of dirt, and also difficulty levels. So I've had feedback from early access. A whole bunch of players have said, this game is way too hard. A whole bunch of players have said, this game is way too easy. And so I think by adding difficulty levels, I'll be able to satisfy both. Like, play it on easy the first time round, understand the systems, and if you really are an expert, I'm trying to make a really difficult setting, like one that I can't finish. So I'm really excited for that.
Are you considering adding a permadeath mode?
That's one of them. So someone on the Discord suggested, this is horrible, but what if you did hardcore, where the characters do permanently die? So that's what I'm thinking of doing. Yeah.
It makes sense.
Because the thing is that if you only have 4 to 8 explorers, if you lose one, that is huge. Like you immediately lose a quarter of your power in the base. So you don't want to do that, which is why you can bring them back to life. But they don't like it.
I would imagine.
Indeed. And how long do you think the early access period is going to last?
To be honest, I'm not sure. It depends on how well the game is received. I have a lot of ideas for content. I'm not sure how much is going to get in there. So it depends on how well the game does, basically. I'll be adding content as long as I can. But I suspect it'll be at least a year, but I don't know.
Okay. And it is a bit hard to ask this question given how little time it's been on the market, but it is still worth asking. What's the reception been like in the week or so it's been released?
It's been really good. Like, as my first ever game, I didn't really know where it was going to go. But it's gone well. So we have a consistent player base. We've been getting very positive reviews. We passed 50 reviews within a week, which is really good. So now Steam is now making it more visible to everyone. We have our Discord community. I think it feels like it's doubled in the last week. It's huge. Wish lists have gone up by 25% in the last week. Yeah, it's been a super smooth sailing. A lot of people are really like loving the game. They're really getting into it. Some people have been making charts. Some people have been like making tutorials, which is kind of terrifying
I guess as
to
far
know
as like
that
the chat
people are making a
tutorials, have
game.
you
Yeah.
been putting input on whether anything has been correct yet, or are you still letting the player base figure it out on their own?
So with the tutorials, like I do know that a little bit of tutorials, like in some ways they could be made slower. I think some players are finding the tutorials happen too quickly. But I am watching as many streams as I can to see how people are going through the game for the first time. And so I do go onto whenever I'm not working, I'll go onto Twitch and YouTube and see who's streaming Adaptory and try and pop in and ask them like, how's it going? Anything confusing so that I can improve it.
Right.
Yeah. But I think mostly, like because we've been in an alpha demo for a very long time, and we've taken the game to PAX and Gamescom and some other conventions, we've sort of got through a lot of that early stage. Like I've never played this game before. How do I get started?
Right.
A lot of people they get started pretty quickly, and then someone dies.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay, I'll start again.
Go again.
But each time you
again.
play through, you learn more. Yeah. Yeah.
And let me see here. So I suppose my final question at this stage is your pricing plan, i.e., do you plan to increase the price as content gets added and you reach that 1.0 stage?
I've chatted with my publisher who's helping out with marketing support, and at the moment we don't plan on increasing the price. But like if we add like 1 million updates, like then maybe, I don't know. But at the moment there's no plan.
Okay. I think that's a fair enough assessment given how vague the end game here seems at this stage. So, right. So I'll see if my colleagues here have any further questions for you.
I don't think I have anything
Oh, I
further.
think I'm good.
Right then. So, Jevon, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here today to talk about Adaptory. It's been a lovely conversation.
Thank you. It's been lovely to chat about Adaptory and to reflect on the journey so far and to share what's been going on. It's been a very exciting 2 weeks. I could not sleep at all on the night that early access was coming out. I think I slept 3 hours, but it's going well.
More than some devs.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm very good at like having strong boundaries and not working too hard and like that's really really important to me. But still,
not even necessarily a matter of work, just stress.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So anyway, the game is Adaptory. It is currently out on Steam Early Access for $20 normally, but it's currently going through an introductory sale. Offer ends February 9th, but you can pick it up in the next few days at time of broadcast at $15.99 USD. So be sure to go do that, or at the very least, go wish list it today. All
Yes,
right,
please.
so Petty, play us to the next segment. All right, so welcome to the topic of discussion. So this is actually a topic that's been on the docket for a couple of weeks, and we probably would have gotten to it sooner. But we kind of wanted to get through more games on the rewind list before addressing it. And in fairness, it's not like Ubisoft has, rounded the ship in 2 or so weeks.
Yeah.
Now, because we are talking about Ubisoft this week because they are in a lot
Semper
of trouble.
Ubisoft, sub Ubisoft, as they say.
Only you say that.
Anyway,
so in case you somehow missed the news,
if you've
which
been living under
actually
a
would have been
rock,
an impressive, it would have been an impressive feat because it was kind of the big news story of January, if I'm
Mhm.
being honest. But so Ubisoft is doing a massive restructuring, which means some pretty typical things, i.e., job losses, studio closures, and canceled projects.
Yeah, stop us if you've heard this one before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not a unique story to Ubisoft, I will grant.
Hell, it's not a unique
but
story of the past few months.
no, past few years. Like,
Yeah.
you could probably point to a major publisher, and say that they've had job losses, unless we're talking about a select few like Nintendo or Valve.
Right.
Because, Microsoft, yes. Sony, yes. EA, yes. And, we're not done in that direction either.
Mhm.
Take Two, down the list it goes. Outside of perhaps like Eastern publishers, depending on who you're talking about, because Japanese game devs have been hit by this less than say Chinese game developers.
Mhm.
But in the case of Ubisoft, it's not just a matter of routine. It's not just a matter of following industry trends. Nobody's talking about it in those terms. And I think quite rightfully. People are talking about Ubisoft as though they are near the grave. And I don't think they're that bad off yet. But by any sort of metric, Ubisoft certainly has been doing pretty shit.
Well, unless they write their trajectory, they may end up not being a thing in the next few years.
They may be
Right.
bleeding money, but they do
And
have a lot of money to bleed.
Right.
it's not just that. They've That's just the money, but it's also management. Ubisoft has had a management problem, even like above and beyond most other video game companies. Like this is beyond. Once again, it's beyond typical. Clueless industry execs are out of touch or are forcing artificial intelligence into everything. Okay,
Looks
that is
violently
going
over
on.
at Microsoft.
Yeah. Once again, that is going on at Ubisoft. Full bore, make no mistake. In fact, one of the things that they announced is they are looking into integrating generative AI into their games. That's not the special part because, Microsoft, EA's looking to do that. Once again, this is more. These are more industry-wide plagues, which is its own bit of conversation. Ubisoft has management problems that a lot of other firms don't have. And that comes down to the family, specifically the Guillemot family, aka they're the founding family, and they are also major controllers of Ubisoft, both shareholders and management positions. In fact, the current CEO is a Guillemot, Yves Guillemot, and how do I put this? Pretty simply, like, one of the contentions for a lot of outside investment firms to bail out Ubisoft has been to get rid of this family. But the the Guillemot family doesn't want to give up power. And there was also that attempted takeover from Vivendi some years back, which introduced another factor into the Ubisoft mix, and that's Tencent. And that is actually significant. Not so much Vivendi, but Tencent. Because Tencent is playing a bigger part in Ubisoft's finances. And in fact, they are taking a role in some of their top tier franchises. So, Ubisoft has announced that they are forming a whole bunch of silos, let's call them. The crown jewel of which is called Vantage Studios. That's the one that's in charge of what Ubisoft considers to be their three big money makers. That's Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Tom Clancy. Though when you say Tom Clancy, they mean Tom Clancy Siege.
Yeah, Rainbow Six Siege.
Because apparently other branches of Tom Clancy, like there's apparently a Splinter Cell reboot in the works, unconfirmed, but this has been something that's been churning in the rumor mill. And it's actually one of the projects that got delayed, not scrapped, but delayed. But that's going with one of the new silos. Let's see. And I'm trying to remember how they're breaking down the just gonna have to do a bit of because how they're restructuring this. Yeah. No, that's the actual
research.
PDF. Yes. Yeah, here we go. They are outside of Vantage Studios, they're building 5 creative houses. So now, what is a creative house? It's like Vantage Studios. Except it's going to be built out of like a few teams. Like they're going to get Ubisoft Reflections and Ubisoft Milan and an Ubisoft branch here, there, and everywhere into one of these 5 houses. And yeah, so Vantage is the only one that's been named so far, because the other ones are creative houses 2 through 5. Please note the irony here. Anyway, CH2, they're going to be in charge of the other Tom Clancy games. Not just Splinter Cell, but Ghost Recon and The Division. Which is interesting because you'd think Division would have been in Vantage. But apparently they're just classifying that as overall Rainbow Six. Even though, let's be honest here, Rainbow Six Siege is the only part of Rainbow Six that's alive right now.
Yeah.
Like we're probably never going to get an Advanced Warfighter 3 or Rogue Spear 4. However many of those that they made, and so on and so forth. Like, we're not getting Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six 4, and so on and so forth. Creative House 3 is going to be live experiences of various sorts. That's the unifying theme, because otherwise, holy fuck, is this a random hodgepodge?
Yeah.
Because they're grouping For Honor, The Crew, Riders Republic, Brawlhalla, and Skull and Bones here. Once again, by theme, genre, all that, these are very random franchises to pair together, but they're all live services.
Right.
CH4 is going to handle their fantasy worlds and narrative-driven universes, i.e., this is where they're sticking the likes of Anno, Might and Magic, Rayman, Prince of Persia, and Beyond Good and Evil. It should be noted that Beyond Good and Evil 2 still exists and is still in active development somehow.
Yeah.
Theoretically, yeah.
The Prince of Persia reboot was recently canceled, though, yes?
Yes, that is the major project that did get canceled. It's actually suspected that Beyond Good and Evil 2 is subjected to like some sort of tax break scheme like Skull and Bones was, i.e., they have to keep it in development for legal reasons, which I could buy into.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, what are we doing here? Like, why? Like, literally, why are we spending all this time, money, and effort on a sequel to a game that came out over 20 years ago and bombed?
Yeah, well, like, it's become a cult classic now, but yeah, like...
It's been a cult classic since 2004.
Right.
But anyway, and finally, CH5. This is the casual and family-friendly games, which means Just Dance. And apparently Ubisoft has...
Dance.
No, and apparently something called Idle Miner Tycoon. I did not know Ubisoft had one of those.
Huh.
Yeah, but it's also where I'd imagine if they were still making those, like the babies and pets and all the, fucking DS and Wii shovelware would have gone.
Yeah.
So that's how it's breaking down in terms of the creative networks, these creative houses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how this is going to pan out is anyone's guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just happened. And just going to have to see how things develop. But I suppose in terms of what was going on with... It's especially cognizant with all of the development that's ongoing right now. Because, how is this going to affect, let's say, the Splinter Cell remake? Because, okay, that was being handled by, I don't know, let's say Ubisoft Montreal. And now all of a sudden it's being put in this creative house. How does that change the structure of development and narrative developments and all that stuff? This is probably one of the things that's going to have to work through. Now, as far as company restructurings, so they are closing the Stockholm studio and the Halifax mobile studio. Okay, so there's an addendum to Halifax, and that is Ubisoft has been engaged, allegedly, in union busting here.
Mm-hmm.
You would have thought that this would have made more waves, given the reaction to the allegations of union busting on Grand Theft Auto 6. But I heard very few peeps over the Halifax closure. Maybe that is a position of stature, because we are talking about a development house that focuses mainly on mobile gaming versus, developers who are working on literally the biggest game ever.
Mm-hmm. The game that people are literally taking bets on if it's going to cost $100 or not.
Among other things. So, and they are also going to be restructuring things at Abu Dhabi, Ubisoft Red Links, and Ubisoft Massive. So, what restructuring means here usually is people fired.
Yep.
Just, they're not disclosing the amounts. At least not at this stage. So, yeah, once again, that's all, that's all in an effort to pull themselves out of the hole that they've been digging for themselves for quite a while. And this isn't even getting into the sexual assault stuff that was going on a few years ago. People have actually gone to prison over this. But in terms of the problems of Ubisoft, it's actually fairly simple. What does Ubisoft stand for these days? What's the stereotypical joke about Ubisoft?
Open world games?
There's more to that.
Go on.
Okay. Bland open world games.
Oh, yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Like, I've honestly stopped really following a lot of Ubisoft games. I tried Assassin's Creed 2, like 1 and 2, and I just couldn't get into them.
Well, Assassin's Creed 1 was rough around the edges always, and
That's
Assassin's
kind of why
Creed 2...
I gave 2 a chance.
I've played a bit of Assassin's Creed 2. Yeah, it just but that was recently and it just felt a bit too dated. Though people swear by Assassin's Creed 4. But we're talking about old ass Assassin's Creed.
Right.
But that gets to what I'm talking about here. The reputation of Ubisoft is they are a mediocre publisher that puts out bland products that are buggy.
Hello? Galaxy still
Did you go somewhere?
I think Adam is off in the void again.
Quite possible.
I love when this happens. Director's note.
Hello?
I do not. Oh, you're finally back?
Yeah, sorry. That was actually my fault. I was banging the desk so hard, I dislodged my microphone connection.
Yeah, don't bang the desk.
Yeah, don't do that.
Sorry.
Do not decrease desk XP or HP.
It's more the vibrations from the pounding. So, putting that aside, what I'm saying is, name a Ubisoft game of recent vintage that isn't Assassin's Creed. Or Tom Clancy or Far Cry.
I was about to say the only other option is Tom Clancy.
Well, no, it's like, seriously, name an Ubisoft game outside of those.
That's been recent?
What do you get? Yes. I can Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora.
That was Ubisoft?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or that is an Ubisoft game. Or much more recently, Star Wars. Or no, that was actually from the same time period. No, I'm thinking of the Switch 2 port. Star Wars Outlaws. Both of these games flopped.
Yeah.
And that's been the story of Ubisoft more than, they've had more Skull and Bones than Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Yeah.
even something like Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which was a smaller game, underperformed to their expectations to the point where they disbanded the team that made that.
Yep.
So if you want the core reason why Ubisoft is down the fucking toilet, it's because their games are coming out and they're not selling. And this has been a problem for a while. It's not just the recent or the extremely recent stuff. You can go back to, let's say, Watchdog Legions. You know, a game that bombs so badly, it's basically killed the franchise in video game form. I can't say that the franchise is dead completely because there is a movie coming out.
Right.
But from what I've heard, Legions did so badly that Watch Dogs is on ice. Now, how true that is, not sure, because, you know, this is just something that's been rumored.
Well, and also the life of the franchise may depend on how well the movie does, whether it makes it to fruition, and if it does well enough, it may bring life back, or it may be the final nail in the coffin. Because we've definitely heard this story before.
Yeah, or the Crew Motorfest, which apparently did okay, but once again, you know, that's the Ubisoft story. You know, it did okay, it did all right, it failed, Skull and Bones.
The thing with Motorfest, a lot of people are mad about, is they got rid of the original crew, which is perfectly functional single player game. But they ended up removing and delisting it, and a lot of people were very upset about that.
Yeah, that's part of the Not Killing Games movement, which is actually a bit of a separate topic.
Right.
To Ubisoft's overall mismanagement and financial drainage.
Right.
So, and probably the biggest exemplar of their downfall is their stock price. I know we usually don't talk. I know we usually don't talk about such things here, but it kind of has to here, because their stock has been down 95% since their high. And just like on the news of this restructuring alone, the market has been most displeased.
Yeah. Like, it has very much just straight up cratered.
Yeah, because it is now trading at time of recording at 93 cents USD, which, by the way, is 6 cents lower than last time we looked at it on Sunday.
Yeah. Things are not going well.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it is also worth noting that Ubisoft's workforce, specifically their French workforce, are calling to do that thing that French unions do, and that is strike. They want an international general strike. Now, I don't know if that's going to take hold, because here's the thing. Ubisoft is literally, like, they may be the video game company with the most offices in the most countries in the world. But how do I put this? Ubisoft Abu Dhabi is not going to go on strike. Ubisoft Singapore is not going to go on strike. Hell, fucking Ubisoft Montreal is probably not going to go on strike.
Right.
So, you know, that that's the difference between French worker protections and other countries.
And it's a
Now,
whole separate discussion on whether or not this was intended or not.
Yeah, it's also like the idea of how many people will go on strike then. Like I'm sure the French workers are hoping to like get thousands of people maybe. I don't know. Like but I do know it's also worth noting that the French unions are fighting for French workers. Like apparently they're looking to get rid of a couple hundred of French developers.
Mm.
So it's not surprising that the French unions would be fighting for those interests. It's just, as far as international interests go, it's harder to coordinate that on just about every level.
Right.
If I'm being honest.
Again, unknown if that was by design or not, but that's something we'll never know.
It's actually not by design,
Mhm.
because we are they're talking about a international general strike. Okay, do you know what a general strike is?
Yeah, people basically walk out.
No, a
Right, but it's
general
not,
strike
yeah,
is
yeah,
everyone does nothing.
Right.
yes. When working people refuse their labor until their demands are met. And the idea is to gum up all of the Ubisoft works. But, trying to do that inter-fucking nationally, literally across the globe.
Yeah.
Imagine the logistics of that for just a fucking second.
Oh, yeah, no. Especially in places that don't have as many worker protections as a lot of the European areas do.
Exactly. This is why I don't think a general strike is going to happen at Ubisoft.
Because, like, in a lot of the
At least not
Eastern
internationally.
devs, they'll just fire them.
Yeah. Possibly worse, depending on how dictatorial the country is.
Yeah.
Like, the point is, yeah, your heart's in the right place, but as usual with a lot of left-wing lofty ambitions, the how do you actually do it stage, it's kind of lacking.
Mm.
But that's a topic for another time. Anyway, speaking of which, it's probably about time to wrap this up. At least for the time being. Because obviously this story is not done.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
Yeah, we'll be having our Ubisoft post-mortem or their miraculous recovery show.
Yep.
It could be in a few months, it could be in a few years. We'll not know until it happens.
Yep. All right, so yeah, that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. So coming up on the week ahead, no Friday show this week, and we do
Yay,
have a new
sleep.
episode of MS. Yes, and we do have a new episode of MSP planned, and Mac is slated to join us as far as we know. Like, I do hate having to note that every week, but that's kind of the stage we're at, aren't we?
Indeed.
Anyway, coming up on the Sunday reviews, we'll be having impressions of a game called Scrabdackle and full-on reviews of Cathridge, Unboxathon, and Rustic Defense. So until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.